The Lord instructs Arjuna. Brahman is empty within and empty without, undifferentiated and homogeneous. We make this distinction between in here and out there. But it's all material which is subject to our cognitive process. We classify things into internal and external, into physical and into mental, or into emotional, physical and emotional. It's all classifications. And reality is empty of classifications. It is not an object of observation, nor is it different from the observer. It's what's doing the observing. And it can observe what's going on and then start classifying things, start putting things into perceptual categories. Or it can observe itself. When it observes itself, this is a completely different thing to observing what's going on. The observing can observe the observing by a complete turning about of the attention. The world appearance arises in it as an infinitesimal part of it. Because the world is in fact only an appearance, it is in reality emptiness, void and unreal. It's a category. Mysteriously, there arises in all this a feeling I, which is infinitesimal compared even to the world appearance. So we've also got this feeling of I, this notion of self. The infinite is undivided by any of this, yet it appears to be divided on account of this I feeling. Once we have this I feeling, we start differentiating between what is I and what is not I, what belongs to I, what does not belong to I. Even as the I is non-different from the infinite consciousness, even so material objects, like a pot and living beings, like a monkey, are non-different from one another. They're all categories. What is it that's being categorized? Who would like to hang on to this I? Why not cling to the infinite consciousness, which alone appears as all this by its own mysterious energy? And this is a choice. We can observe what's going on, or we can observe the observer. The intrinsic nature of consciousness is to identify with what goes on within it, is to identify with its notions, its feelings. It's also got the possibility of identifying with itself, and this is the point at which it realizes its true nature. So we can cling to the infinite consciousness. This is the nature of consciousness, it clings. There are so many things it can cling to. And this is what creates, this is the basis for sorrow, for suffering. But once it realizes its own nature again, as infinite consciousness, it can cling to that. So why not cling to that? Such an understanding and the consequent absence of craving for the enjoyment of the fruits of one's natural activities is known as renunciation, Sanyasa. Renunciation is renunciation of hopes and aspirations. Hopes and aspirations come about through clinging. We tend to think hope and aspiration is a good thing, but that's because we assume that there's nothing except a dark abyss without them. But that's not the case. We've got the fullness of our own nature, of our own unadorned nature, once we give up hopes and aspirations. When one feels the presence of the Lord in all appearances and modifications, and when one abandons all delusion of duality, that is regarded as surrender to the Lord, or offering of self and all to the Lord. At the end of the previous video, I was a little bit wary of this expression, offering everything to Brahman, but here we've had it explained quite clearly. Offering everything to Brahman is living in the realization of Brahman. I am hope, I am the world, I am action, I am time, I am the one, and I am also the many. Hence saturate your mind with me, be devoted to me, serve me, salute me. Thus constantly united with me, and with me as your supreme goal, you will reach me. Well, you will become established in me. You can reach me in an instant. But to realize that Brahman is everything as part of your spiritual practice is a way of becoming established in Brahman. I have two forms, O Arjuna, the ordinary and the supreme. The ordinary form is that which is endowed with hands, etc., and with the conch, the discus, the mace, etc. So it's Krishna that's talking, but he's describing the form of Vishnu. And Krishna is an avatar of Vishnu. The supreme form is without beginning and without end, one without a second. It is known variously as Brahman, Self, Supreme Self, etc. As long as one is not fully awakened spiritually, one should worship the common form. By such worship one is spiritually awakened, and one will know the supreme form, knowing which he will not be born again. Well, we've had this discussion before. There's no connection between worshipping a form of a deity, whether it's Vishnu or Krishna, and realization of Brahman. In fact, I would say there's a danger of getting so attached to the form of the deity that you're unable to turn your attention away from it to the realization of the formlessness.